What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're going to jump in with some Destiny 2 Witch Queen info, and we get a little bit of extra info about Glaive's exotic and legendary variants, as well as class-specific exotics and the new crafting system in the upcoming expansion. Bungie have until now only really outlined very basic details about these new systems, but today we get just a little bit more new info via new Bungie interviews with both Polygon and PC Gamer. Additionally, we get extra info about Hive Guardians, the raid that they plan to reprise in Year 5, and some of the secrets of Savathun's throne world. If you guys enjoy the video, a rating below really helps us out, but also feel free to get subscribed so I can keep you posted on everything related to the new expansion. And now, let's get into it. As a roundup of what's been presented so far, Bungie in the showcase revealed that the Glaive and the new crafting system are pretty closely linked. And so the new Glaive is an energy weapon with melee abilities, mid-range projectiles, and a defensive capability. They point out that of course it is the first ever first-person melee weapon. And in the gameplay we see strings of combos rounded off with an energy blast, which actually plays the shotgun sound. And importantly for this new weapon type, they're not going to drop in the world, but instead will be crafted. And the new weapon crafting system, they've said, will be a combat-focused weapon system, and the more we use weapons, the more objectives we complete, the more powerful they'll become over time. And they also confirmed that all Throne World weapons from Witch Queen, as well as the Witch Queen raid weapons and seasonal weapons, will be able to use the crafting system. But the 2021 expansion is only the beginning, and they will reintroduce both old weapons, as well as introducing new weapons into that crafting system through the course of the year. But now jumping to some of the interview segments, and initially, Ryan Gilliam from Polygon points out that in Destiny 1, weapons would drop with locked perks, and then we'd spend some time grinding the unlocks through gameplay and spending resources to max it out. And Joe Blackburn says that this is a far more in-depth system, and is about forging a long-term relationship with a weapon as you unlock more of its perk pool. And he also points out that crafting won't be tied to the existing economy, but is going to have its own brand new systems. In a separate interview, Tim Clark from PC Gamer asked the developers about the balance between everybody being able to get god rolls and the grind linked with crafting itself, and Joe Blackburn said crafting is about finally delivering the fantasy that you can make the gun you've always wanted. We want you to feel like you went on a journey to get there, because by the time you're able to make the exact god roll, you'll have the ability to make all versions of that gun that you want. So it's really about a long pursuit with a weapon, and we think if you're willing to spend that amount of time with a gun, we're okay for you to be able to craft whatever version of it you want. And of course that's suggesting that over time, we'll be able to unlock all of the potential bonuses on a weapon as crafting options. And Blackburn also said that the side benefit of having a more deterministic loot system is that players no longer need to store hundreds of versions of the same gun in their vault. And then Tim Clark asked, hypothetically, if there's a 600 RPM stasis auto rifle in Witch Queen, and my white whale is for it to have overflow and headstone perks, will I be able to gradually pick off the potential perks until I have them available to craft? And Joe Blackburn said yes. Without getting too specific, we still want guns to have unique identities, but when you go in for the first time and see the recipe of possible perks, we'll understand the things that we can do with weapons and the possibility space. And so that confirms weapon crafting and the bonuses selectable on weapons are very much built from the potential perk pool of the weapon already, and that's the identity of the weapon that he was referring to. And once again, he said if you're willing to spend a significant amount of time with a gun, we're okay for you to be able to craft whatever version of that weapon you want. Which means crafting is absolutely about being able to target god rolls and things like that. And of course, as we've seen, there is a bespoke crafting station, which is obviously going to be the vendor associated with doing upgrades. And of course, the Glaive will be the first crafting only weapon, and likely the weapon that actually introduces us to the crafting system. We should highlight here that Bungie said they'll have more to share on the Glaive in future, including class-specific exotic variants with unique attacks. And so exotic Glaives are confirmed, but also ones which associate with the specific classes inside of Destiny. So for example, there should be a Hunter exotic Glaive at some point in the Witch Queen expansion, which is pretty exciting. The devs say we've had melee weapons before, but this one is going to be a green ammo weapon. But even if you're out of ammo with the Glaive, you'll still be able to stab something. And he also says, I think the first time someone picks a Glaive up and puts Swashbuckler on it, they're like, oh, I just won't reload then. I'll simply stab things and shoot things forever. And Polygon say Blackburn wouldn't go into more details on how the Glaive works, but The quote gives us some interesting clues. First, players will need to reload their glaive for one reason or another, be it to shoot the energy blast, use the shield, or another unknown purpose. But additionally, glaives will have a wider influence on your loadout, as ammo is only required for one aspect of the weapon, with close-range melee attacks seemingly not needing ammo at all. Additionally, Joe Blackburn referenced players directly placing the perk Swashbuckler onto the weapon. And as we spoke about earlier on, as we spend more time with these weapons, we're going to get access to more of the potential perk pool for them, and it just further confirms that we will be able to apply very specific bonuses to weapons via the crafting system. Next though, they say, as for players who would use the glaive over other weapon types, especially in difficult content, Blackburn spoke about the main benefit, which is encroachment, and he said we look at this as a weapon that really allows you to encroach on encampments. You can imagine something like a Hive Guardian dying and its ghost being left on the ground, but there's also a Shrieker in the back. I don't have time to kill the Shrieker, so instead you pop the glaive shield on and walk up to the ghost and smash it. And so encroachment is one of the kind of defensive capabilities of the glaive. But as a ranged weapon, the glaive lives in the short to medium range category, and the developers likened it to operating in kind of fusion rifle ranges. So between its melee prowess, the ranged blast, and its shield, the glaive is about to be the Swiss Army knife of long, pointy sticks. It offers the ability to melee enemies quickly when you're on low ammo, blast powerful foes to bits from range, and to use the shield to protect yourself while resurrecting a friend. But as far as the Crucible, he said Blackburn assured us that the team has made some really smart calls on PvP, and Bungie doesn't want players to have immediate access to the shield, allowing them to fend off attacks when they spawn with special ammo. The duo didn't go into detail on how the team is solving the problem, just that it's something that they've all thought about and have a solution for. And so highlights absolutely include that for the crafting system, it will be combat focused, requiring progressive long-term kind of investment into weapons, but also using that crafting vendor as a kind of wayfinder for those upgrades. The crafting system won't necessarily use any of Destiny 2's existing economy, and also the suggestion is that we'll be able to apply very specific perks to a weapon, and he gave the example of someone putting the Swashbuckler perk onto a glaive, as well as the fact that we'll get both legendary and exotic flavors of the glaive, plus class-specific exotic glaives. Plus it gives us a better idea of how the weapon actually uses ammo, as well as the melee, projectile, and defensive capabilities of the glaive. So, of course, it's still a little bit early and we will get more specific details about both of these systems, but it's cool to get a bit of extra info, and I'll be curious to get any of your thoughts and what you're looking forward to regarding these new elements in Witch Queen. There are a couple of additional interesting questions here though, and Tim from PC Gamer says, can you give us a slight hint at which Destiny 1 raid you're planning to reprise next year? And Blackburn says, I'm going to give you the boring technical answer. We know we wanted to bring back a banger, so it's really about the complexity of bringing the raids from D1 to D2. I think by saying it'll be one of the big raids, that takes one out of the equation, and then it becomes, hey, we're making a new raid, 2 dungeons and reprising an old raid this year. How can we choose a raid that's not going to sink the ship and make it as awesome as the Vault of Glass reprise? So interestingly, he says it's going to be one of the big raids, taking one out of the equation, which presumably is Crota's End, and that means essentially he's just said the choice is between Wrath of the Machine and King's Fall, and I think either of those raids will be pretty exciting to play in the game again. So give us any thoughts that you have about which they may bring back. PC Gamer also asked about Hive Guardians, and they say, can you give us a sense of the frequency at which we're going to be facing them and how strong they are? And Joe Blackburn said, think of them like wyverns, which are big, tough, meaty mechs, and every time you see one, we wanted to change the way that you play. And so Joe Blackburn was clear that Hive Guardians are definitely not like the Barons from the Forsaken expansion, so they're not characters that will kind of strike off one by one, but at the same time, they aren't going to be the core mobs that we're fighting, but instead will be kind of elite enemies, and Joe Blackburn referred to them as creating crescendos in the action. And so Hive Guardians are going to be more kind of elite enemies that are scattered throughout encounters as opposed to being the core enemy type. And then he also talks about Savathun's throne world, the new location, and how they're giving different areas of that location different flavors so that things don't feel samey. And he refers to a dark, crashed pyramid ship in one corner with lush swamp water. And then going from the swamps, you have Savathun's huge castle, which is super ornate, medieval, and almost cathedral-like, and then a separate bubble which is kind of a blend between the two. He also says he thinks it's going to be one of their best destinations. They want something that feels different to other destinations in the game, but at the same time it's Savathun's home, and when you start thinking about locations like the Dreadnought, you think about secrets, and we'll have a lot of that too. And so just a few teasers for the new destination that we're going to see. But for today, guys, that's what we have to round up inside of this video. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed this one. And if you have, a rating down below really helps us out on the channel. Also, if you're new around here, be sure to get subscribed. We've got a lot of Season of the Lost content, as well as Witch Queen stuff to cover in the next few weeks. So hit the red button down below and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss out on anything. But for now, I appreciate you guys tuning in as always, and I will catch you all very soon.